Do you guys remember back in 2018 when we got that Elder Scrolls trailer? I mean, I was kind of excited when that came out, but it's 2024. We haven't heard or seen anything since. We did get Starfield from Bethesda, but how did that go again?
And here we go. I hope you're hungry for nothing. Now!
Alright, so maybe that didn't go over so well. But at around the same time as that, we did get Baldur's Gate, and that was surprisingly great. It had an engrossing story and deep RPG mechanics with a ton of choices and consequences that actually mattered.
He's right, you know.
And you know what? I do love those super deep RPG mechanics, and I love having to make those decisions that have consequences down the line that really affect my story. But I really appreciate the Bethesda RPGs. I love just having these casual quests where I can, explore the world at my own pace. I get to walk around, I get to see what the next cave has in store for me, I get to see what new quest an NPC has for me. And even though the writing isn't always the best, I've always still appreciated it for what it is.
Phantom, you stormcucks. Skibidi was fine until you rizzed along. Simpire was chill AF. If you weren't maulding, I could have copped that whip and been halfway to Gunnerfell.
Okay, so maybe the writing in the Bethesda games hasn't always been the best, but luckily recently we got Fallout London, a mod created by just a handful of people, and it's really scratching that Fallout itch while we wait for the next installment of the series. And it only makes sense to me that if we get Fallout London, that we get something to hold over the Elder Scrolls fans. And I'm really happy to say that we do. We got Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. So, Tainted Grail is being developed by Questline Studios, and as far as I can tell, this is the first game that they've developed. And for a first game, they're doing a really good job. Hi, this is Future Me, and it turns out that they did make a few other games. They made a few turn-based tactic games. Sorry about that. So the game takes place in a dark fantasy version of Arthurian legend. Oh, shoot. Hang on. No, not that one. Hang on. There we go. Like The Sword in the Stone, and Merlin, King Arthur, things like that. Upon actually starting the game, you get to make your own character using a pretty simple character creator, and through some dialogue choices, you get to choose your starting stats. And it's in this small tutorial area that you learn to sneak, fight, craft potions, and you'll get some exposition.
You took your sweet time, eh? But I understand, I did too.
And at the end of this tutorial area, you escape on a boat, and after a bad storm, you find yourself shipwrecked on a coast somewhere, and this is where your journey really takes off.
It's happened before. It will happen again. And soon.
What was I saying? Oh, right. So, after you wake up on the beach, you're going to receive a quest marker and it'll lead you to this local castle, where you'll start meeting the NPCs there. You'll meet the quartermaster who needs your help, you'll meet the local guards, you'll meet a blacksmith, and you'll meet this shopkeeper who feels a certain way about the local population.
All mother's tits. I've just about had it with this bunch of repressed virgins. And who might you be? You don't look like one of them.
No shit.
But these aren't the only NPCs that you're gonna meet. There's also a local fishing village, a camp full of warriors, and other NPCs scattered throughout the open world.
What have you done? You shouldn't be here.
And all of these guys have various quests for you, ranging from simple fetch quests to more drawn out quests with multiple parts. For example, this guy wanted me to just go and make a warm coat for him, because he's freezing his balls off at the top of this wall. But then the shopkeep at the castle wanted me to go find her associate, which involved me going, killing a bunch of bandits in a bandit den, freeing her associate, and then going and finding the original cargo that she was after in the first place. There was also this quest, which just involved me going and interrogating the local population to find a thief. And that's just to say that the quests are varied in nature.
That's the best news I've heard all week. Come on then, give it to me.
You'll have some where you're just going and talking to people, Ones where you're, just doing simple fetch quests, and then others that are multi-layered.
You want to know what I want from you or not?
And, not only are they varied, but they're also interesting. They're well voice acted, and they're well written. At least, a lot more well written than the Bethesda quests I've played recently.
It was the best of times, it was the blurst of times, you stupid monkey!
Okay, so that's sort of how the questing works. From here, I'm going to break it down into how the combat works, the character progression, and exploration of the actual world. Right, so the combat works very similar to how it did in Skyrim. Except in Skyrim, you would just kind of swing whatever pointy stick you had at enemies until they were dead, unless you were using the all-powerful stealth build or maybe a magic build. In Tainted Grail, you have some more refined mechanics. You're able to dodge, you're able to parry, and you're also able to slow down time with the time manipulation power that you get at the beginning of the game. Now, in Tainted Grail, I did find myself using that all-powerful stealth build. I was sneaking my way around with a bow and arrow and just digging through the pockets of my victims when I was done with them. But I did try out other ways to play. I tried out magic, and I tried out big two-handed weapons. The way the magic works is very similar to how it is in Skyrim, albeit you have some more utilitarian spells than I think you did in Skyrim. For example, there's this spell that allows you to shoot out a crow at enemies to distract them while you do something else.
I'm not beating you.
Or this spell that allows you to summon a skeleton. And while I found the melee combat to be pretty weighty and satisfying, I think that it could be taken a step further. Hits often just kind of bounce off of enemies, and I wish that they kind of swung through them and maybe had some more gore effects, like being able to take off an arm or something like that. And those additional moves that I mentioned, they can be a lot of fun. The dodge allows you to quickly dash in any direction to avoid damage. The parry allows you to repel enemy attacks and perform a counterattack. And the time manipulation power allows you to do just that. You're able to slow down time so you can whack the hell out of whatever enemy you're fighting at the time. On the back of that too, there's a lot of enemy variety. You're gonna fight bandits, undead, monsters, an honest to goodness boss fight, and at one point in time, I fought an ogre. You heard that right, an ogre.
He whispers in my ear, "This is my swamp." He grabs me with his powerful ogre hands and puts me on my hands and knees. I am ready. I spread my ass.
Where was I? Oh, right, the character progression. So, you have a skill tree that actually has some meaningful skills in it. You don't just have a bunch of nodes that'll, give you an extra 2% critical hit rate or anything like that. Everything in the skill tree has an actual significant impact on the gameplay. You also have attribute points that you can put into strength, endurance, dexterity, spirituality, and perception. All of these increase your base stats like your health or your stamina drain or how much mana you have. You're going to earn XP by getting kills, finding new locations, and completing quests. And then you also earn ability XP by doing specific skills like lockpicking, using two-handed weapons, sneaking, crafting, things like that. Whenever you're ready to level up, you're going to do it at a bonfire, one of which you can place anywhere in the world, or mostly anywhere, or you can just use one that you find anywhere out in the open world. And speaking of the open world, it's not a massive one like in Skyrim, but rather a smaller, more contained environment. It still has caves and enemy hideouts like Skyrim, just not nearly as many, and it's also got some really cool landmarks, like this statue out here with these giant swords. And since it's a smaller space, exploring is a lot more rewarding than it is in Skyrim. Do you remember in Skyrim how at the end of a cave you'd find a chest, but it'd be filled with a bunch of meaningless stuff that you would just sell because it's not really any other use to you? Well, dungeons in Tainted Grace have unique spells or gear pieces at the end of them. In a way, they reminded me a lot of the dungeons in Elden Ring, where at the end of those you would always find a unique piece of gear that you could only find in that specific dungeon. And on the note of gear, it's worth mentioning that there are a ton of different weapons, different spells, different armor pieces to equip, and you'll be able to get unique weapons, spells, and armors by killing more difficult enemies. It's also worth mentioning that you can upgrade this stuff. You'll be able to do it at the blacksmith using smithing stones. and it seems that it's based on a percentage chance to upgrade. So instead of being able to upgrade it once, definitely, you'll be able to use more smithing stones to increase the chance of actually being able to upgrade that piece of gear. And aside from being able to upgrade your gear, you're also able to craft, cook, you'll be able to go around and chop wood, you'll be able to mine, you'll even be able to fish.
Impressive. Very nice.
Now, I also want to touch on the performance of the game. Visually, the game looks really good at times, especially in the atmosphere and the way that the weather looks. The game just has a vibe. But when you get down to a more technical level, the game is very unpolished. And I know it's in early access, but often when I was in outside environments, I would get frame dips. I was often running between 50 and 60 frames a second. Indoor, it did improve, where I was getting between 70 and 80. And while the game never crashed on me, I did see my fair share of bugs, especially clipping on characters. Often their clothes were clipping through their skin, their mouths weren't synced up properly, and their facial animations could look odd.
A keeper without a sword. Good enough for the kitchen, but nothing more.
Okay, so with all of that out of the way, I want to talk about the new region, Connacht. I had to look it up. That's how you pronounce it, apparently. So this new region is totally different from the main region that you start out in. It's a lot more vibrant and colorful. It's got a lot of greens and purples. You'll find new enemies here, new gear like new weapons, new armor, new spells. It has a few side quests, though not too many. Right out of the gate, as soon as I went in, I picked up a quest and was met with a message that told me that it wouldn't be available until the full release. And with that, there's also no main quest. You can go and meet some of the NPCs, but you're not going to get any main quests from them. And the thing too about this new area is that it doesn't just look different from the starting area, but it also plays different. You'll have to do some platforming, and you'll find some dungeons that have familiar layouts. If you play Dark Souls games, you'll have these familiar looking elevators, and you'll also come across new enemies that are put into different variations to provide different gameplay scenarios. So technical hiccups aside, like the low frame rate and the lack of quests, I really love this new region. You know, as I wrap this thing up, I hope I've convinced you that you should go and play this game right now. I think it's excellent, and I think we need more RPGs like this. We haven't had an RPG like Skyrim in quite some time. And I'd like to say too that if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. I plan on making more videos like this. I'll probably make them in longer form content, just on games that I enjoy, and games that I think that other people would enjoy. If you have any thoughts on the game, or if you've played it, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know what you think of Skyrim, because we all love Skyrim. If you have any suggestions for future videos you want to see, put those down there. And most importantly, have a good weekend. Until next time, bye.
Keep your wits about ya. We'll make short work of you. This is my lucky day. What a whip!